in business, what was the most important thing to do well in business? The most important thing.
The most important thing in business, I always tell to anybody, there are three very important things. One, you have to be a hardworking person. Secondly, you must to be very honest, honorable honest. And the third thing, the most important thing, is you need luck. If you don't have luck, you cannot go on business.
Okay, now tell me, in your own opinion, or your own advice to young people today, like me or Christine, that we go to good colleges, and we have good degrees, and we have all these choices in the world, whether you want to be a doctor, you want to work in TV, you want to do something fun, or you want to make money. What advice do you have for young people about the way they should lead their lives? You didn't have that many choices, right?
I didn't want any choices. I didn't want anything else. It wasn't my blood. When I was in business 46.5 years, if it's not Magda, I'm still in business. I love my business. I had a very good business. It wasn't my blood. She started, I used to go almost every Thursday. Thursday flying to Florida, come back Sunday evening. And she says, how long are you going to do it? So I said, now I work only before I retired, I worked only about the last 6-7 years. I worked only 4 days, Monday to Thursday. I didn't work Friday. Because in my business, even I had people working for me. I was buying, I was selling. I was the business. And I used to sell for 10 days. The business just to go to Europe, to go to France, you go to Budapest, Hungary. Now my advice to young people, no matter what they do, they should stick to it. Not to switch 3 months this, 1 year this, 2 years that, to switch one item to another. Otherwise, what I advise, if they know about something, they should go in business for themselves. And they should struggle 2-3 years, because nothing to be your own business.
Okay, that was good. Now, I'm going to switch gears for a second to go back to one thing, just one thing that we talked about earlier. Tell me how you, and you don't have, if you're not comfortable with this, but how did you cope with knowing that your whole family was killed, except for your brothers? How did you cope with that? What did you say to yourself?
Very, very depressed. I was very depressed for years. And when I came to this country, and I had my job, and I went to sleep evening, I was always like crying by myself, thinking of my lovely parents, my sister, my brothers. It was very, very hard to forget it. It's unbelievable. You cannot forget it. They are with you all your life. They are with me all my life. They are going to be with me.
Now, something different. I'm just going to switch gears to finish things up here. Tell me, what you're telling the other people, tell me when you retired, how old you were. Tell me the good things in your life that you had from tell me what you were able to buy. Like, I know you have a condominium in Florida, and tell me the good things that came of that. But tell me how old you were when you stopped.
I have to tell you? Let's see, 82 years old.
Tell me though, say
okay.
You have to say
I was 82 years old, and I had bought in 1971 a commercial building for myself. I was the only one in the building. And after retirement, I was able to rent it to somebody with a 10-year lease. I have a condo in Florida, 2 bedrooms, 2 beds, facing the ocean. I am very happy with my condo. I bought it 20 years ago. I enjoy it very much. And I was fortunate to meet 10 years ago a lovely lady, who was a very good friend of mine. And we are together every day in Florida. We traveled together many times to Europe. For instance, last year we went to Rome, Italy, London, England, Budapest, Hungary. This year we went to Paris, France, Monte Carlo, and so forth.
Okay. Now I'm going to switch to. I told you a lot. This is a lot about my mother too. So I want you to tell me the first time you met my mother. Tell me what you thought when you met her.
When I met your mother, as I mentioned,
say Carmela. Don't say my mother. Don't, because people are watching, so they don't know who my mother is.
okay. When I met Carmela, I arrived Monday, and then I was invited to my brother Milton, and I met his wife. I met his 3 sons. His wife was a lovely person. I didn't speak English. I spoke to her Hungarian. Her Hungarian wasn't good, because I understand she came in 1923 as a young girl to this country.
I'm talking Carmela, not Grandma Helen. Carmela.
Oh, I thought
No, Carmela.
you wonder about Carmela.
Yeah. Tell me the year, and tell me what you thought of her when you first met her.
I met Carmela, I don't remember the year. Must have been in the 60s, when at your parents' house, I was invited that your father
Now, hold on
went.
a second. Hold on. You can't say your, because people watching it don't know who I am. So you have to say at their house, okay?
In the 60s, I invited to my brother's house, Milton, to Long Beach, my nephew Roy, who went to school in Geneva, Switzerland, met there a girl, and
Hold on. Hold on. Okay.
his son, Roy, went to school to Geneva, Switzerland, and met a girl there. And his mother invited Carmela. And while they were here, they were in love. They decided to get married, and I was invited to the wedding, which we were about 20 people at my brother Milton's house in Long Beach. She was a pretty girl, very pleasant, and I was able to talk to her. She was born in Subotica, Czechoslovakia, which used to belong to Hungary, so she spoke Hungarian, and I was able to talk to her Hungarian. I considered her very pleasant, very nice, and I told my nephew Roy, you are lucky, you have such a beautiful, nice bride.
Have you ever discussed the war with her?
Oh. Yes, so we are talking how did we survive the war.
Say Carmela and I. Carmela and I were.
So Carmela told me that in 1944, when they start to take the Jews in concentration camps, in ghettos, her mother took her to Budapest to a home where apátság, hogy hívják, what they call?
Convent.
And to a convoy. And she said, I have my little child here, and I'm afraid this war, I don't know what will happen with her, I want to leave her with you. I don't think she said that he was Jewish. So she left her the convoy, and after the war, her mother came and got her child. So that's how she was saved from the Nazis. Is it true?
Yeah. Now, tell me the kind of person that you think she is. She's a little. She speaks her mind, right? Tell me what kind of person you think she is.
I consider Camilla like a very fine, pleasant person, smart. Besides that, she is a social worker. She's a good businesswoman. And I enjoy spending time with her and her husband, Roy.
Now, I'm just going to ask you questions and you just answer them. What's the most important thing in life?
To be healthy.
Do me a favor, say the most important thing. Say it in a sentence.
The most important thing in life is to be healthy.
What's happiness?
What do you ask me?
What's happiness? In your own definition, what does it mean to have happiness? And say it in a sentence. You can think about it for a second.
Happiness is if you have a happy, healthy family, and you are not aggravated. This makes you happy.
And what's sadness?
Yes, I don't like to talk about this here. You know what happened to my family. The sadness is very sadness when you lose your family. It's a very, 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 very sad situation when you have a lovely wife and she loses at a younger age. You have a daughter, you lose her. This is the sadness in the world, the biggest sadness.
I have a funny question. Is it better to be happy, or is it better to do something? I'm talking about a career. Is it better to do something that you're happy with, or something that makes a lot of money for you?
Let's put it this way. It's better to be healthy and rich than poor and sick. Poor and sick.
And in today's world, when you were a child, there wasn't air conditioning, there weren't cars, there wasn't any of that. Today you have, cameras like this, you have the computer, you have the internet, you have videos, and all. So tell me what you think of all these new things and how it's going to...
I feel that since I was a child till today, we advanced 300 years. Not 60 years or 70 years. When I was a child, we didn't have air conditioner, we didn't have refrigerators, we didn't have toasters, for instance, we didn't have television.
Just writing down one thing. I think that's good. Is there anything that you think is important to add?
We have a lot of stuff.
I think that was good.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to tell you something else.
Wow.
Living in Europe, living in Romania, living in Hungary, being in Russia, President Kev, my opinion is that United States is the best country in the world. It's a democracy. There are good things, there are bad things, but there are more good things than bad things. There are all kind of people. Some like each other, some don't.
Just one last question. Is there anything about Carmela, one event or one thing that she helped you with, or something that, anything that stands out about an event with her, either if it was my bar mitzvah, anything like that, where nothing, that's not one
I
thing?
don't remember.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, that's good. Let me, so just tell me how old you were when the war broke out and where you were and about your family and stuff.
Yeah. My father was a gentleman farmer, and so he was living in a big farm. And it just happened I was up in Budapest because my brother, who was taken already to the working battalion, not in the army, because the Jewish boys was taken to a working battalion. But my sister-in-law was in Budapest, and I was up in Budapest staying with her when the Germans occupied Hungary. But I wanted to go home to stay with my parents. So I went home, and I have friends, they were like detectives and policemen, and we had to put on the Yellow Star, but with the Yellow Star I couldn't travel, so I took off the Yellow Star, and this friend of mine and my father's policeman were waiting for me by the train and took me home. Otherwise the Germans would take me right away. When I get home about 2 days later, they took all the Jews from this little town and took us to a ghetto. So I went with my parents to the ghetto.
What was the name of the town you lived in?
It's called Mate Sarko. It wasn't that little town, but they took us where the camp, they had the camp, they called Mate Sarko. This little town where my father's farm was, they called Fehérgyarmat. It wasn't a little farm because we had a big castle in the farm. That's where we lived. I would say I'm coming from a very comfortable home. As a matter of fact, they called we were very rich. So I really I don't feel very comfortable talking about how I lived because I lived very, very comfortable.
Can you tell me how you ended up going to a camp? Can you tell me that?
They took all the Jews from this town, you know, and all the towns around, and they took us to Mate Sarko. This was a big town, like Boston here, you know, in the United States. And they took everybody there. And from there, another camp to Berekhovo, who was even a bigger town. And all my aunts and uncles were together my uncle's apartment, which happened to be in this camp. We were staying there for a couple of weeks. And because I have quite a few, I mean, my father had these friends, policemen and generals and from in his farm they were going to how do you call, shooting ducks and like all this rich farmers, that's what they were doing. And it's very hot here. I was about 23 when I went to the camp. No? No good?
Hold on one
It's
second.
okay, I'm fine, I'm just adjusting.
Alan, try not to move the paper that much because it makes noise to the microphone, okay? Okay. Okay, we're on. So just tell me how old you were in a year.
I was 23. It was 1944. I was married already. The first time my husband was taken away to the working battalion with my brother and with my two brothers. One of my brothers, they take him away in 42. As a matter of fact, both of my brothers was taken away 42. And I was the only one, my parents. And when I was in the camp, I heard about it already, that one of my brothers is not alive anymore, that he was shot. And my other brother, I didn't hear anything. But I joined right away the underground in the camp. We are taking out young people to Romania.
You can speak up a little bit, but I think.
Yeah?
Speak a little bit louder.
I joined the underground in the ghetto, and we tried to save the young boys and girls, you know, the young kids, taking them to Romania, because that was the only underground we could take the boys out from the ghetto. I myself wanted to go with my parents. I wanted to save my parents because we heard already they taking everybody to Germany. The Nazis was taking them there, and they have crematoriums, and was cremated right away. So I was working, as I said, with the underground, and we saved quite a few young people. And when come the time when I said to my parents, I wanted to go too, and I want to take you to Romania, and my mother have a bad feet, and she was sick, and she said she's not gonna risk the others to go to a safe place. So I stayed with them. I didn't want to live without them. And we were in this ghetto for about 2 months. When they started to take everybody, the cattle car, and take them to the concentration camps. Um, my mother was taken right away to the left, you know, when they took us to Auschwitz. We were separated. I was separated from my parents. My father went one side and my mother went to the left side. And I was going with the woman, you know, the man was separated from the woman. And I never heard about my mother again. But I heard about my father, that he's working, and he was alive. But then I lost contact. I didn't hear from anybody. Just find out after, when I survived, that my father died too.
How long were you in the camp for?
I was in a camp for 14 months.
Which camp? Say out.
I was in Auschwitz, I was in Bergen-Belsen, I was in Krakow, Unterlüß, so different camps they took me. I was working in different camps.
How did you survive there? What did you tell yourself? And what did
Honestly, I told myself I don't want to survive because I lost my brother, I lost my mother, and I was sure I lost my father. So I didn't have the willpower to survive. It's really, I was from the beginning with 3 girls, and they were the one who kept me alive, because you know, I felt I don't have nobody. I know one of my brother died already, and I really didn't lift my little finger for survival. It just happened. I survived.
Were you physically stronger than other people?
No, I wasn't. As a matter of fact, I was a very thin girl. I wasn't this heavy. I mean, I was about 90 pounds already, and it's just, I don't know how you call it, kismet or whatever. Like I had incident when if I am I was late 1 minute, we had to stay in line, because every morning, early morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, they were counting everybody, you know, and I always stayed next to my friend, and I was late one morning, and another girl was standing in my place, and she was pulled out and she was shot. So if I am there a minute, you know, like I'm not late a minute and standing another place, then I would have been shot. So this is with me all this time, you know.
I know you have numbers on your arm, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us how you, when that happened and how you?
That's in Auschwitz. They and this camp, they gave tattoo for everybody.
How did that? This might be a dumb question, but how did you want to pat yourself?
Yes.
We'll
This
finish
is
it.
very hard. Yes.
How did it make you feel when you had the numbers?
You know, I always felt you don't have to take all these numbers. When I came to the United States, everybody's telling me there was my cousin's friend, a doctor, who said, I'm going to take it off, you know, operation. And I said, I'm going to live with this because I don't have to have the number to remember or not remember. I mean, I always remember the concentration camp with or without the number. And I never wanted to have the operation.
Do you consider yourself, no, let me ask another question. What happened after the war? How did you get out of the camp?
After the war, I felt
Tell me
I
how you
don't
got
have.
out of the camp. How did you?
We were deliberated in Bergen-Belsen. That's where they took us when the English actually deliberated us. We were in one of this camp, Unterlütz, where I was working in a munition factory. And, you know, we always heard the aeroplanes around us and they dropping bombs around us, but they never hit the concentration camp, just around. And there were always somebody who get the news from the outside. That where are the Germans are pulling back, and where are the Russians, and where are the Americans. And when the bombs was falling around us, we always thought, you know, one of the bombs gonna fall in the camp. But somehow they know, all the Americans and the English, you know, they all know where are the camps are, and I don't think they ever hit the camp, just around the camp.
Did anyone in your family survive?
One of my brother came back. He was in by the Russian front. My oldest brother came back, but unfortunately he died 3 years ago. But he was the only one who came back, and he was the one who found me, that I was deliberated in Bergen-Belsen, and I don't even wanted to go back to Hungary, because knowing that nobody survived from my family, I mean, I thought my oldest brother is not survived either. And I tried to get in touch with, I had my aunt in the United States, but I know only his name, I didn't know, and I know only he lives in New York. And one of the soldiers, who was a Belgian soldier, and when this is one of them who deliberated us, and I told him the only thing I know, my uncle's name, and he's an artist, and he lives in New York. And you know, he find them. He find my uncle. I don't know how, just in New York he find him, and they get in touch with my aunt and uncle, and they get in touch through the Red Cross. They get in touch with me. But my brother met a cousin who saw me in Bergen-Belsen, And he wanted to take me home, but as I said, I don't want to go back to Hungary. But he got in touch with my brother, his cousin, and he told my brother that I'm alive. And my brother couldn't come out, couldn't get out from Hungary because he was a big Zionist, and he was sending out kids to, that time wasn't Israel, it was, what was the name, Israel, before. So anyway, he was sending out the survivors, you know, and how do you call it? Not Aliyah, you know. So he was watched, and he couldn't get out from the country. So he sent out one of his friends to take me home to him, to Budapest. And his friend found me, and he took me to Budapest to my brother. But I don't want to stay there. I had a nervous breakdown, you know, when I got home, and it was very difficult for me. I couldn't, you know, actually I don't wanted to leave because I felt I lost my husband, I lost my whole family, and it was just an accident, really, that I stayed alive.
Now, I want to just go back. I'll ask you some quick questions.
Yeah.
Tell me what grade you finished in school, but say it in a sentence.
I actually finished 2 years college
What did you
in Budapest. I was always wanted to be a doctor, and my brother also wanted to be a doctor. My two brothers finished college. And then when I finished the second year in college, I couldn't go anymore because there was the numerous clauses, and they didn't take Jews in to colleges, just a very small percentage. You know, when the numerous clauses came out, just a small percentage of Jews could get into college. So I couldn't get into college anymore. And anyway, my parents said, you don't need to go to college, you're gonna get married. And I really got married. But I didn't live, we didn't have a chance to live together because he was taken away. So actually I was living with my husband 1 week.
1 week?
1 week, yes.
All right. Now, I asked Alan this question. You didn't have any choice. Because of the war, you couldn't go to college. You had to stop.
Yeah.
You lost your husband.
Yeah.
People today, what would you tell people my age or Christine's age today who have all these choices? What, if you could give them advice or you could say something to them?
I would say to the young people the same what I said to my two sons. I get married again, you know, and I have two sons, and I always told them it's very important to get education, and you have to know what do you want, what do you like to do. That's very important. Whatever you're doing, you have to like doing it. Otherwise, you can't enjoy your work and you can't enjoy your life. And if you're doing something what you enjoy, then you really could enjoy life, because the work what you are doing enjoyable.
Are you? Yeah, I know when you said when you were in the camp that you wish that you didn't survive.
Yeah.
How do you feel today that you did survive? And what did you learn from that?
I tell you, it's very difficult for a survival and the children of the survivor. I think they grew up in a different way, you know. I think the children of the survivor is feel it, that the parents, the survivor, give a different bringing up the children, because they are, the survivors are not, they are unable to really trust life for the children to raise them. So it's really very hard. It was a very hard job for a survivor to raise a child. And the children always felt that, I know my son, he had a very hard...
What made it hard?
Because I don't think a survival is always... a survivor's life is not... They never felt safe. And the children always felt that something is there, you know, that the parents not really give them the bringing up how they felt they should be bringing up or brought up.
Are you happy you survived though? Do you enjoy life? Do you feel guilty?
Yes.
Say it in a sense.
I feel guilty. I feel guilty that I live, and I feel guilty when I was happy, and I felt guilty that somebody died instead of me. I feel guilty for a lot of things, yes. But I was happy to raise my children, and I am happy they are successful. And I think in life it's very important that you shouldn't feel guilty. You should enjoy life. And I lived with my husband for 46 years. And we had a very hard life together, because he was a survivor too. And I was very strict with my children. I shouldn't be that strict. But I was always afraid I'm going to lose them.
Are you happy with Alan?
Yes.
How long have you known Alan?
I know Alan is 10 years already, and I think both of us should feel very happy that we met, and very fortunate that we met, because I know we like each other and we enjoy each other, company and this stage of life. And I think we should feel both fortunate to meet because we have a lot of things in common. And I hope that he enjoy my company like I enjoy his company.
Let me ask you,
And
tell me what you think of my mother. Like, say Carmela, don't say my mother.
I met Carmelo about 6 years ago, I think. And it's the funniest thing, Ellen first don't wanted to meet her. I don't know what was the reason. But for some reason, he don't want, I met his family. And, you know, I always wanted to part of his family like he's part of my family. Finally, when I met Carmela and Roy, it's, I like them very much. Carmela is a very lovely woman, and I think he likes me too. She likes me too. And we really enjoy each other's company when we are together, and I take every opportunity to be together every time when we come up to New York, to be together with Carmela and Roy.
Do you see anything similar because you both went through a war? You have similar traits?
Maybe.
Say in a sentence.
Maybe because we have in common something in common with Carmela. You know, we went through the war, and that she I think Carmela feel that too. We really enjoy each other with her.
Do you consider her opinionated or strong? How would you describe her?
I think she's very strong. Carmela is a very strong woman. She's very smart, very intelligent, and I think Carmela is a very strong person. Yes, he's a strong person.
3 last questions, and I'm going to ask everyone these. What's the most, and these are open questions, so you can
Yes.
think that. What's the most important thing in life?
I think the most important thing in life is, first of all, to be healthy, and second of all, a family. The family tie is very important. And I tell this to my children, that they should always think about the family. And it's very important not to be alone. I think it's very important for everybody that should have somebody, especially for older people, but even for young people. It's very important, the family tie.
How do you define happiness?
Happiness is to have somebody. You should always be healthy and have, you shouldn't be alone. That's very important. I think that's happiness.
What's sadness?
Sadness is to be alone. That's sadness.
The very last question. And it's totally different than everything I asked Alan this too. What do you think, when you were born or when you grew up, there was no cars, no air conditioning, now there's computers, TVs, VCRs. What do you think of all this stuff?
I think we are very fortunate to live in a time like that we could reach out and we could have everything for comfort, for you could reach everything if you are determined to have it. This is a very fortunate age for this generation and for the older people too, to have all the comfort with the air condition and with the television, and to have everything, whatever you could heart desire. But you have to have money to. You have to have the money to have everything, and you have to work for it. I see the young people have to work very hard to reach their goal. And you have to study, you have to reach that goal, you have to work for it. And you have to study for it. You have to, you have the opportunity to have everything if you work for it hard.
You think there'll ever be another Holocaust?
Yes,
Say in a sense.
I think it could happen again, unless the people be careful and think about it. It could happen again, a Holocaust. Because it's still, there is hatred in people, and there are miserable people who hate each other. They hate the blacks. They hate the Jews. They always there. You could find people who it's tremendous hatred in them to each other. And I never trusted the Germans. I think it could happen again, and unfortunately, the young people feel in it. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, but I'm afraid it's going to happen in my children's or grandchildren's life, and I am sorry for them.
That was great. Sorry we ended on a sad note, but
Yeah.
that was really good.